All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today is an interesting one, a little bit different. We've never done this before for HQLA, but something interesting. This one is an app based in Melbourne. The CEO's name's Josh. He's going to jump on here in a few minutes. And the app is called Minke app. And so basically what they do is they provide very simple and easy to use access for end users, so consumers like you and I, to be able to access savings protocols such as Aave and Maker is another example. I'm not sure if they provide access to that one specifically, but protocols like that in a way that's really easy to use, as I said. And so one of their big draw cards is they have Apple Pay integration, and so you can literally just use your Apple Pay on your iPhone. Thank you so much for reaching out. I think Jet, one of you. So Jet, what's the context for Jet? What's Jet's position at Minke?
Jet is our community coordinator. So he started with us at a uni probably 6 months ago now, as an intern actually, and then worked his way into a full-time role. So great addition to our team.
Wow, that's amazing. And so when did you first start Minke app? Do you refer to it as Minke app or just Minke?
Minky. So Minky.
Oh, Minky. Like okay, great clarification.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
All
Minky.
Good.
When did that start?
We started Minky in September last year.
Gotcha.
So just kind of started hacking on it on weekends and in the evenings while working at our old jobs. And then, kind of got to a place in December where we had like a really basic React Native paper version and some pretty good prototypes that were testing really well, and thought, we have something special here. So decided to quit our jobs and turn it into a real business.
True. And that's your dog behind you there, is it?
Yeah, that's probably my dog. He might be coming in and out.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so good. I love it. That's great. So the founding team, what does that look like?
So my co-founder Marcos, he's Brazilian, but he lives in Portugal for the last 4 or 5 years now. And we're a remote team of 8, so based all over the world. So there's a couple of us here in Australia, but we have people in the UK, Brazil, Japan, Germany, and that's actually how we intend to build Minky going forward. We kind of have an agreement that we'll never have a central HQ. We're a global company that should have global reach and global ambitions. I've actually only ever worked remotely in like a remote first role. Like we've obviously had offices here in Melbourne, but when we started the company, that's something that we just wanted to try to avoid. So there's not kind of like 2 tiers of people working.
Do you think that that's the future of? Do you think that's the future of remote? Like of everyone in the future working? Do you think everyone's going to be doing full remote, and all jobs will be like completely able to switch and swap between? Or do you think that there'll still always be like the old school companies with the office and the
I think there'll always be a mix of both. There are definitely benefits of being in an office and being in person. And like co-working spaces for sure. Like maybe it is just co-working spaces where everyone's working for a different company, but you do go into the office quite a bit to hang out with people. I know now that COVID's over, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting into a co-working space around other kind of Web3 people. That's how I kind of got into the space as well. Just like going to meetups, hanging out with friends, like talking some crap and like having beers and going for dinner after work. But that's how you learn, like being around other like-minded people, just like you're in when you're in university, right?
Amazing. Okay, so on that point, I noticed that it looks like when you were at uni, you did like a business degree. It was like maybe finance and marketing. Was that what you were doing?
I actually only studied finance. I did a few marketing courses because, I can kind of give a bit of my story there. So in uni, I studied finance, and then at my last semester, I think, I was starting to, or right before my last semester, I was starting to interview for internships that would hopefully go into a full-time role after I finished that last semester. And yeah, at that point, I just realized like, wow, I don't want to work here. It seemed, I'm sure it's probably changed since then. That was probably 6 years ago. And I think even a lot of the more like, say, traditional companies have kind of woken up to the reality that you have to treat people well and have like more flexible work arrangements. But back then, it just seemed so different compared to what was available in tech and kind of the new way of work that startups and even like later stage tech companies we're going towards. So yeah, and everybody I chatted to that was in finance seemed to hate their life, and everybody that was working in tech seemed to love it. We were going like a massive tech bull run though at the time as well. But yeah, just decided like, yeah, I don't want to work in finance. What's the best way into like a technology role? So did a few marketing courses in my last semester as kind of my as extra credits or whatever. And yeah, then got an internship. And then when I moved to Australia, I found a marketing role. So, and then, yeah, got exposed to, I guess, all part. I started as a first employee of at SmartML, which was my first job here. And yeah, got to really do everything. So did customer support, marketing, product management, and really found, I guess, the parts I like and learned a lot how to, I guess, lead a team and grow and build a company.
Yeah, that's great. One thing you mentioned there was the finance and tech. The difference between the traditional
you work in finance?
and the new. I do work in finance. No, we won't bring that up. No, but one thing that I was interested in there. So basically, what you're building here is a decentralized finance or DeFi, app. Can you kind of explain DeFi and decentralized finance and what that means to you and why you kind of chose to go that route with your startup?
Yeah, so decentralized finance is essentially the function of decentralizing or de-intermediating a lot of the basic activities that we do in finance today, like lending and borrowing money or swapping or exchanging assets. So typically you'd have to go through a bank or a large financial institution, sometimes with 200,000 employees in this big office tower in the city. But that's just replaced by an elegant computer program in the form of a smart contract, typically on the Ethereum blockchain, but yeah, on a lot of other blockchains now too.
Yeah, amazing. Sorry. And so, okay, so question here is in regards to DeFi, CeFi, right, is like maybe the term that people would give to the more traditional version of that. I noticed in that article that you wrote recently, sort of in response to the whole Terra Luna saga, you mentioned that like the Anchor protocol, right, being the protocol behind what was being used in the Terra Luna situation, is not a decentralized protocol. Is that correct? Could you expand on that a little bit more? Has I got that right?
No.
Okay.
So Anchor was a decentralized protocol on a blockchain that was probably a bit more centralized than we would have typically used.
Okay.
But I guess right now, so Minke is a non-custodial wallet, meaning it's self-hosted. We actually have no access to your funds. You have your private keys for your wallet, something like a MetaMask or let's say a Rainbow if you bought NFTs in the last year, or you've used any form of like crypto in the last couple of years. That's the same infrastructure. It just looks like your bank or a fintech. But what we also compete against is a lot of centralized products. So even like a Coinbase or let's say here in Australia, we have CoinJar and a few other things. Most of those models are fine, but in this kind of savings space that we're playing in now, there's also kind of centralized services that will pay you a yield, sometimes fixed, sometimes variable, and then kind of invest your money for you. I guess where we have a problem with that is because we are a non-custodial wallet, everything's on chain. It's very transparent. You can kind of see that path of your money and know where it's going. But in these centralized services, it's very opaque. They might pay a yield, but you have no idea where your money is actually going. And when you ask, it's like, oh, we can't really say. That's our core competency, or that's what makes us different. But that actually like raises a lot of alarm bells, not just I think for regulators, but also for consumers, right? It's like, how are you generating this yield, and are you taking like undue risk? And I think the answer is yes. A lot of the time, as we've seen this week with Terra Luna. And I've been talking about this for a while, and I guess I probably felt a little bit vindicated this week, is because when things like this happen, when it's not really transparent, and you have all these centralized services kind of saying, oh yeah, this is a safe way to earn 10%, 20% yield. And a lot of normal people go in, and it actually turns out they're just generating their money from Anchor. And then the entire thing goes down, and a lot of people have lost their life savings, right? And it puts a black mark on the entire industry. So it's going to make it a very hard space for even though we have a different model, it's going to make it pretty hard for us to compete, not to compete against each other, but I guess compete in the broader sense with traditional finance, because we're going to have regulators probably taking a closer look at what everyone's doing. But also consumers are going to be confused. Like the first questions that we've got from our users, journalists and everybody else, like even though we try to do a really good job of how we give access to these other protocols, and some people will just keep on clicking through, right? They don't read. They're just like, cool, that interest rate is there, I'm going to get that. And then they see all this news and like, crap, is my money safe here? So that's the first question we got. It's obviously not what we do, but now, I guess we're just trying to be as loud as possible about it, just to make sure people know that we are different, and that your money isn't risk-free in the protocols that Minky gives access to, but hopefully it's a bit safer than what happened. Actually, a lot safer than what happened over this last week.
So speaking of those Anchor protocols, right? I noticed in the article it says that you guys use Aave and MStable as opposed to Anchor. So in terms of yield protocols, why is that something that's actually better than Anchor?
Yeah, so first, in terms of the coin you're actually saving in, so that you have stable coins, which are pegged to the US dollar. So with Minky, the default stable coin is USDC, which is kind of backed by a consortium, and one USDC is redeemable for $1, and it's kind of backed by treasury bonds and actual cash in the bank, which is audited by Grant Thornton. But then with Anchor, you were saving with an algorithmic stablecoin, which actually isn't really backed by anything. To be honest, it's backed by belief in this like algorithmic asset that it's somewhat redeemable for. And the difference, I guess, in the savings protocols and the yields that are generated between, let's say Anchor and then Aave, which is kind of the default savings protocol in Minky right now. The yields in Anchor were actually being subsidized. So in DeFi, you lend out your money and it gets borrowed by people who will pay interest to borrow that. Those are usually leverage traders, or sometimes people just wanting to get liquidity on their crypto holdings without selling them. And in Aave, which is very organic, that right now is about 3 to 4%. And in Anchor, they were paying savers 20%. So it doesn't really add up, because no one is going to borrow at, let's say, 21, 22% when you can borrow at 3 to 4% somewhere else, right? So that 20% rate was actually just being subsidized by parts of Terra. So a 20% yield was actually being subsidized by parts of Terra and Luna, so the Luna Foundation Guard. And that is very unsustainable. It's just VC money that's kind of paying for this yield to hopefully bootstrap the network where it gets so big that other use cases for UST, which is the algorithmic stablecoin, somehow eventuate. But even if this didn't, some people speculate it was a short sell attack. Even if this didn't happen, eventually that reserve pool of money would run out, and that demand for UST would drastically drop, and you'd have this death spiral occur. So even if it didn't happen this week, it likely would have happened sometime in the next year. And it was just a really crappy situation because, a lot of normal people lost their money, and a lot of people, I guess, in the space were really advertising this Anchor and kind of these Anchor front ends. So a lot of people in the space were advertising Anchor and these Anchor front ends as really like any other fintech, like an Up Banking or Australia or a Revolut, like a Monzo. So get people thought, yeah, my money's in a stable coin. It's going to stay there forever. I'm going to earn a 20% yield. I'm all good. I'm not in Bitcoin. I'm not in a risky asset. And then they wake up the next day and 50% of their savings are gone. So, or even more than that. So, it's been a really crappy situation, and it's going to be something that we as industry really have to work through and hopefully get through on the other side.
Yeah, that's so crazy. What you're saying is totally correct. And so I was looking at, again, at your article, maybe more philosophical here for a second. You were talking about, you were saying that sort of when you first entered crypto, you felt like the sentiment and the goal and the narrative around what was trying to be achieved was different to what it is now, like banking the unbanked and stuff like that. And you talked about like, maybe this is like a wake-up call to sort of try and get back to our roots and stop pumping all of these random sort of Ponzi schemes or whatever you want to call them, right? Do you have any more comment on that or explanation as to what you're sort of thinking there?
Yeah, so I guess I got into the space kind of like early 2017, late 2016, just kind of researching, putting a few $100s in, and then started building in like properly in late 2017. But back then, even though there were a lot of charlatans, a lot of scams, it seemed like everybody was working towards better consumer outcomes, even if it was like apples on the blockchain or some really crazy concepts. And that a lot of the narrative was like banking the unbanked, even though it was pretty impossible with just Ethereum layer 1, and some of the concepts didn't really make sense. But I think in this last cycle, it's also given the macroeconomic situation, right? Like people were also doing this with GameStop and other meme stocks, but it really changed because say in 2017, if you had talk to somebody at a bar or maybe your hairdresser or your barber, and you brought about crypto, they'd say, oh, I've heard that it's doing this really good thing and it's going to be the future. And then in 2021, you talk to somebody who's like, oh yeah, I invested in SHIB and I've hit like 10x my money. Like, what's the next meme coin? And that was, I think everybody was pushing that this cycle. Even Coinbase, crypto.com, when you downloaded their wallet on the App Store, it was Coinbase by BTC, ETH, and SHIB. And that was what every new entrant was getting into. And I think that put a really like black mark on the industry because it just seems like this one giant casino, right? Maybe people still believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing game-changing stuff, and they are, but they kind of think that next layer is just, okay, people screwing around and gambling, when there is a lot of impact that I think this next layer of consumer products can have. So I guess with Minky, what it really is, it's a high yield US dollar savings account, right? Powered by crypto. And the benefit of that is, in Australia, you can get a bit of a higher yield on your typical bank account, but we're actually accessible globally. We have local top-up partners in 42 countries. You can top up with Apple Pay in 30 plus countries. And that's really important in countries like Brazil, Turkey, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, like where even like Sri Lanka recently, that's going through like a currency crisis. People are just trying to escape their local currency. And through traditional means, it's actually impossible. Governments there make it impossible to save in US dollars without getting completely fleeced by middlemen and intermediaries. And now crypto is actually the best way that these people can exit their local currency and protect their hard-earned wages and savings through US dollars. Yes, I guess like Bitcoin might be seen as this kind of nirvana and where we kind of get to another unit of account, but it's still very volatile. And the bridge to that, I believe, is settling on crypto rails and saving in US dollars, because that's likely what we're going to see over this next 5 to 10 years is a lot of countries going through hyperinflation and through this recession that's likely going to come. And people have no way out, and crypto is kind of their savior. So hopefully Minky can play a big part in that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really good look into. I mean, we've seen like Argentina and everything like that with their crazy rates of inflation and everything like that over the last couple of years. So in terms of Ponzi schemes and VC funded, people are pounding in all this money, and obviously it's a great advertisement in terms of like, oh, we can give you 20% on your money. You just have to believe that you can continuously make 20% forever. Which is obviously pretty unrealistic. But I think a lot of those stable coins kind of know that when they sign up with that high of an interest rate and everything like that. And there's a lot of pride taken in the non-custodial wallet model that you guys are currently using, which is actually really good, because obviously you don't want to have a trustee set up in between, where it's like, oh, if the company goes down, what happens here? If we have it's kind of like a very safe way for people to still hold their own assets in their own names, and so in saying that, what is the actual, can you explain kind of why you chose to build that way, and what's the actual revenue model of Minky? Because I can't actually see how, like, I don't actually know how you guys make any money. So, like, obviously it's not a sustainable business if there's but I'm sure there is a
you do need to make money in any business. But yeah, I guess the reason for being non-custodial is we wanted to access as many countries as possible. We take a lot of inspiration from Revolut. Like, it is kind of seen as this global bank account, but really it's only in 7 regions. So the idea was thinking, okay, if you're non-custodial, you can be everywhere on day one, and you can hopefully reach a scale bigger than that in the next 3 to 5 years. I think Revolut's the highest valued private business in the UK now. And I guess it's also for portability. Like, I guess the philosophical belief that, if we as a company don't do our job properly, like we treat our community like crap, we maybe start taking rates where we shouldn't, you can just take your seed phrase, import that into MetaMask or any other wallet and leave. Maybe some investors might not like that, but that's the foundations that this space is built on. And then in terms of the business model, Minky passes on the full rate. It's not even a pass on, like you actually just get direct access to the savings protocols or savings pools, and you keep everything that your money earns there. It's not like the centralized model where they kind of act like a trustee or a custodian and they kind of take a fee or margin and you don't really know how much they're making. So we don't make any money there, but we do take fees on the top up. So when you go from fiat, so USD, AUD into crypto, we take 50 basis points or 0.5% there. And that might change over time. Like we might try to lower that as we find like other ways to monetize, let's say, because I guess we want Minky to be a fully featured fintech. Like you can't just survive as a savings product. We want to be a place where people have a spend card and they can spend their crypto, or they can invest in things like indexes and let's say influencer or like trader pool tokens, kind of a safe and easy way to invest without getting yourself in too much trouble, like trying to invest in 20 different coins, because it is very hard. Even I'm like totally into the space, but now running a company, if I tried to like build a portfolio of 20 coins, I just don't have enough time. I'd probably get myself in trouble as well. With Minky, hopefully you can do all that, and we'll try to lower the fees and just take kind of like small clips on the edges, that's kind of fair, and really just build a transparent model where you know exactly where your money is going, and we try to do like a really good job of educating you on these protocols, and only giving access to protocols that are battle tested as well. So for example, Aave, there's $20 billion locked in Aave. Recently, it's probably down a little bit now, but that would be a top 100 bank in the US. Really, it started 5 years ago. It's only come to prominence over the last 2 or so years. And that's crazy if you think about it. That's actually more assets held than Me Bank in Australia. And Me Bank has a huge logo in like the Melbourne city centre, right? And this is actually the first challenger that we've had to traditional finance, like worthy challenger. Like the banks in Australia have been the same big four banks, I'm sure, since the dawn of time here. And finally, you have something that can actually compete. But I guess we just need to do a really great job of UX, do a really great job of education, and do things the right way, and keep people's money safe. Because even if like these like traditional banks might take high fees and they're these bad cats, they do a good job of keeping people's money safe. So one thing that we need to prove as an industry, especially after this week, is that we can do the same as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so for those playing along at home, so I also jumped on the app and I was like, well, if we're going to interview Josh from Minke, obviously I need to try the app, right? So I jumped on and downloaded it, super easy, jumped on, and what you're saying is right. So I think I loaded it using Apple Pay. It was like 100 USD. And then you're right, went through to another screen, said 100, I think it was 105. There's obviously the revenue model coming into play there. And so that makes a lot of sense. And so question in regards to the mechanics a little bit more, and just tell us if this is an interesting question or not. But Pizza Hut, okay? So Pizza Hut still have the people driving around in the cars, right? The people driving around, they've got to upkeep the cars, they've got to pay for insurance, they've got to pay these people's wages, right? And they're probably not specialists in that industry. They make pizza, right? But then if you look at a lot of other restaurants nowadays, they utilize the services of something like Uber Eats, who they just incorporate that into their customer experience. That's how they deliver their food. And so in regards to what you do, my understanding is it's somewhat similar. So there's a relayer protocol that you guys rely on called Biconomy. Is that right? And so my understanding is that simply plugs into the back end of your app and just gives you, I guess it allows you to transaction. I guess it facilitates the transactions between what's happening in your app and the actual savings protocol. Is that right? Is that something you've incorporated into your system?
Not really. So Biconomy does act like a relayer. So how we started Minky, we first looked at competing apps, and my background, I guess, is in product and marketing. So, and my old boss, and I guess, one of my best mentors, he was the head of UX at a big app agency in Melbourne. So he's taught me like everything I know about UX and user testing. And before we even started designing Minky or thinking like, what is this company going to become? We user tested our competitors' apps. So Argent is probably still like the biggest player in the space in terms of non-custodial wallets. And Dharma was one that's got acquired by OpenSea, so it's shut down now. But we just figured out like what are the mental hurdles that people can't get over. So one was topping up. So in a lot of these apps, you have to do that ID check where you kind of do this like weird passport selfie. And we operate in a really low trust environment in crypto, right? If you ask your friend to do that, like, whoa, are these guys going to steal my ID information? Like, why do they need this? It's a really confronting experience. So we know we're going after these smaller consumer deposits. So we can just do KYC level 1, which is just kind of your name, your physical address, and your email, so people can get in really quick. But then once you actually do get crypto in the form of USDC, so which is pegged to the dollar, usually in a non-custodial wallet, you need to pay for gas, which is a transaction fee. So you need another token for that. So on Ethereum, that's Ethereum. On Polygon, which is kind of the low-cost layer 2 that we're on. And people just can't understand that, right? It's like, why do I need to have US dollars and another token to pay for everything? So we took some time and figured out like, okay, how can we actually pay for users' gas, but still keep it non-custodial so we can access all these countries very quickly. The solution was Biconomy, which is this really cool relayer infrastructure that essentially wraps around these savings protocols like Aave or Mstable. And so we actually we write these contracts using Biconomy, we send them through that contract, and then we kind of tag along and pay for the gas for the user. And then you go straight into Aave. So it's a little bit why we take a clip as well, because we need to take some money somewhere so we can kind of afford to pay your gas into this. But that makes it a much easier user experience for someone just getting into the space, and really cuts down that time of learning how to use tools like Minky or just crypto in general.
So if I'm getting that right, that's really cool. So like basically you have a smart contract that automatically wraps the the coin, and then basically as someone does a transfer, it automatically wraps it and sends it, and like it's all the gas fees are cut out for the user, and obviously they so they don't have to pay for it, and that's a really cool system there.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's great. So while we're kind of speaking of products and what the Minky app is all about, do you think you have any plans to do the credit side on the opposite side, get a full vertical integration going with the deposit and the lend, and kind of become a little bit of a crypto bank?
Yeah, it was actually on the initial roadmap. It was to start offering borrowing, but really all crypto lending now is over collateralized. So that means if you wanted to borrow $100 worth of USDC, you would need to put in $150 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum. And that probably just really isn't our target market right now. It might be in the future, I guess, as people start investing and building up those savings. So yeah, it's probably something we want to do in the longer term, but yes, but probably not in the short to medium. What's kind of next on the roadmap for us? We still need to build out kind of the bells and whistles on savings, like savings trackers, forecasts to know how much do I need to save every month to hit my, let's say, savings goal of a house deposit or maybe a new laptop at the end of the year. But after that, we wanted to be kind of a full suite fintech, right? So you should be able to spend as well. So hopefully later this year, if not early next, we'll be releasing a spend card where you can just spend your crypto as well. And that again will be non-custodial. So you'll have to kind of move it from a different account in Minky to another kind of almost like co-held account. But that is, the transactions would be initiated through your main account. So and I think that'll be really cool, because then you'll actually have, I guess, utility and spend power with your USDC as well, which is really lacking, and it'll be really important in some of these high inflation countries too, because as much as you need to protect your wealth, at some points you need to use it as well.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's super interesting. So in regards to say people it sounds interesting to them and they've seen what's happening in the current markets, everything's at a bit of a discount relative to how we've seen it recently at all-time highs. And maybe they're thinking, well, this presents possibly a good buying opportunity, possibly. What would you say to someone who's thinking, I'd love to buy or get into the market, but I'm waiting for it to hit the bottom. How am I supposed to time this? How do I know if it's going to go up? How do I know if it's going to go down? What would you suggest a strategy in regards to that?
Yeah, so not financial advice, but so this is my, I guess, second crypto cycle. And I guess my learnings from going through that long bear market until 2020, until kind of late 2020, is really just stay curious. Don't really try to time it. It's time in the market. There's a concept of dollar cost averaging. So what I actually did from early 2018 till, I guess, 2020. It's a bit crazy, so I don't recommend doing this, but I get paid. I put all my spending on my credit card, even my rent I was able to pay for my credit card. So I just pay off my credit card. And then every single dollar I had, other than $100, I also had $1,000 in savings in case anything happened. But every single dollar I had, I just put straight into crypto.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm a bit of maybe an extremist. So do not do that. You also I felt like a massive idiot for 3 years because you'd kind of tell your family that you're doing this, and crypto would just say set at the bottom, and everybody got burned. And everybody got burned. Nobody's coming back. You're just
100%.
I got called an idiot so many times. So probably don't do that. But I think the important lesson from that is just stay curious. And keep learning, and keep your conviction about the space. So if this was your first cycle and you did get burnt, and you actually did learn a lot, keep that conviction, and things will change. Sun will always rise again. We will come out on the other side. But the one thing that's important is the narratives that will change. this cycle you had alts layer ones, which I actually completely missed out on, to be honest, because I'm a little bit of an Ethereum maxi. But that was very much the narrative. And if you traded that well, you would have done very well in terms of, like, say, Solana, Avalanche, even Terra before this whole thing. But that narrative is going to be different in the next cycle. And to be honest, I'm not sure what it is, and I myself am trying to figure it out. So what I'm doing is, really keeping up with maybe a lot of the layer 2 work that's being done on Ethereum. Even still, some of these alt L1s that are coming out, like layer 0, there is some cool work being done on Avalanche and these other chains as well. And really seeing where the innovation is, and seeing where the talent is flowing as well is really important. I have some friends too that were really, like, deep into the Ethereum space that are now building, so let's say, on, like, Cosmos and Polkadot ecosystems. And to be honest, I know nothing about it, but it's something that I should do, is, like, actually go in and, like, figure out more about it, how it works, because there is, like, a lot of smart people building on things there, and there might be, I guess, diamonds in the rough, but it takes a lot of curiosity, a lot of effort, and just, like, keeping your finger on the pulse at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta stay across it all, you know. So one thing we've seen. So with that, coming back to that kind of 5% advertised rate on the earn up to 5% on your crypto. We've seen in the last couple of weeks there's been the huge decline in crypto prices. Ethereum even went down to say 2,800 USD, and as well as that, we've seen a 10% inflation rate on the USD. So do you think that this is a good, say, for example, for a new investor, do you think this is a good risk-adjusted return for what they're getting into? Or do you think that this is something that's more targeted towards people who are already going to hold crypto anyway, and so they can just make a bit of extra on top of what they already have? Or what do you think about that?
I guess with Minky, we're not trying to take that money, or not take, but, like, reallocate that money that you're investing in crypto. We actually talk to a lot of our users and a lot of people that are our target market, and they probably have somewhere between 10 to 20% of their net worth in crypto. But if you actually ask everybody what they expect that to be in 3 to 5 years, it's always 2x, 3x, which is a bit rich, but that's your belief, I guess, when you are investing in something like maybe not Bitcoin and Ethereum, but some of these, like, altcoins. So we're not trying to say do this instead. You keep doing that, and it's fun, right? I do that myself as well, and I'm down bad on a few coins too. But what we're trying to, get you to reallocate, or educate you to reallocate, is that money sitting in your savings account, which for a lot of people is 50% of your net worth, and right now is earning absolutely nothing. It's actually, with inflation, I think in Australia it's 5% now, in the US like 7%, and in some places even higher, right? You are actually just losing money having it sitting there in a savings account. So you should, again, not financial advice, but a reasonable person would think, okay, I need to, if this is my savings, and inflation is so high right now, I just need to protect myself from that. And right now, DeFi is honestly the best way to do that. But educate yourself and take the time and effort to learn how these yields are being generated, because to be honest, that's what a lot of people thought they were doing when they were going into Anchor or kind of these Anchor front ends, right? They thought, yeah, you know what? And people really in like developing countries were doing the same. Like they thought, yeah, I'm trying to get away from inflation and I can really beat it. Now I can get 20% of my money. But it turns out it was really just in a big Ponzi, right? So if you are going to DeFi, do your own research, get involved in the communities, go into Discord channels, ask questions, and really take the time to learn, and make sure you're using, I'd say, protocols and apps that have very organic and safer yields than some of these other tools and protocols. And yeah, hopefully you should come out well on the other side. Yeah, I guess the one thing I should explain a little bit, like why is it higher? That
Yeah,
is a
okay.
big question.
Yeah, great.
People will ask, and that's just one, because you have this efficiency that has improved 1,000x, right? Rather than a bank that has 200,000 people facilitating your transaction, you are borrowing and lending in a savings pool purely through code. And while you're saving at say 2 to 3%. Someone is on the other side, usually just borrowing at, again, 3 to 4%, a very, very small margin that makes it very efficient, and gives you better rates, rather than you saving at 0.25% and the bank lending out your money at 7 to 10%. And I guess there's also just a higher cost of capital in crypto. So the people that are borrowing crypto are generally crypto natives, who have been wholesale debanked from traditional finance, right? So yeah, as an industry, we're just willing to pay a higher cost of capital because that's the reality of what we need to do to be able to access liquidity. So that's why it makes it an attractive option for just everyday savers.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so for everyday savers, and I would say to what you said before, you've actually got a lot of really great content on your website that you've clearly put a lot of effort into in regards to the educational side of what you guys are doing. And so I think that goes a long way in showing like your great intentions behind what you're trying to do with your app. And so that's awesome. I would say are there any other parameters that an end user or a saver should keep in mind when they're weighing up their options in regards to savings options? So is it just interest rates, or are there other things that they should keep in mind from your perspective that they should look into when they're weighing those options up?
Yeah, generally interest rates have that direct correlation, right? It's risk versus reward. So the interest rate is your reward. That's also the risk. So if something is advertising 20-25%, there is likely very high risk behind that. This isn't some magical fairyland where you can all of a sudden get these mega rates. The rates will be higher than a traditional bank for like the reasons I explained. But they're still going to be in a reasonable range, like in Minky, up to 5%. If someone is advertising you 7-18%, you should ask, and you should take the time to figure out how that rate is being generated, because yeah, it likely is, in my opinion, a pretty unsafe way to like put your hard-earned savings for, right? That 50% that's in a savings account, you expect that to be safe. There is no reality where an 18% yield is safe. Unfortunately, it would be nice, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So I guess the other thing I was thinking is I guess there's certain situations where people might provide products where it's like you can lock up what you have for a certain period of time. Yes, we're going to give you a higher rate, but you can't actually access it for a certain period of time. And I don't think that's not something that's within what you do in savings, like liquidity pools, right? That's more along the lines of staking stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's not usually with stable coin assets. That's
Yeah.
typically with other assets, like ETH is going to proof of stake, Polygon is proof of stake. So you can stake your assets to secure the network. So stake and kind of like delegate your votes to validators. And in that case, yeah, you can earn rates, but that asset isn't. I guess that asset is volatile. So I think so with Matic, which is kind of the native cryptocurrency on the Polygon network, you can usually stake and earn up to 16% a year. But the downside of that is that you're staking in Matic. So that underlying asset's price is very volatile. This week, it's probably gone up and down 30-40%. So it's another way to save. I think if you are investing though, so say if you have made investments in Ethereum or in Matic and it's just kind of sitting there, then yeah, it's something that you should consider maybe allocating, not your entire portion, because yeah, there is also the risk of loss, but with staking, but maybe if that Ethereum or Matic is sitting there doing absolutely nothing, consider staking it, helping validate the network, and then you earn like a pretty handsome return right now, at least.
So I've got one that's a bit more entrepreneurial, a little bit more Silicon Valley style question. But do you have any advice for any founders who are looking to build a new tech company in the crypto space over the next year, let's say?
Yeah, I'd say one, like, I guess a little bit of, I'll go back to maybe my journey in tech. I took like a pretty big risk, I'd say, joining like a early stage startup as the first employee. But I was very deliberate about it. I knew that, yeah, this is something that I wanted to do. I did want to found a company. I was just kind of like figuring out something that I really cared about and I was really passionate about. But I got to do everything and learn everything under the sun as we kind of scaled the team from 0 to 20 plus employees. So one, if you haven't founded a company yet, consider joining an early stage startup. When we're advertising roles at Minky, consider joining Minky. It's a great way to learn. And then, as a founder, I'd say, take care of yourself. It's a demanding role, and focus on the things that you can control and that only you can control. Once I guess you're in this like leadership role there, then there's your company's moving really fast. There's things happening in every, let's say, sector, from like product to marketing, from customer support. You're very tempted to kind of like dip your toes everywhere and spread yourself out too thin. But you have to hire great people and trust that they're going to get the job done, not step on their toes, and just motivate them to do their best work. I think one thing I learned at my last startup is just how important motivation is. So, consistently share your vision, share how the company's tracking, what your goals are, and what you want to get to in both like the shorter and longer term, to keep your entire team aligned, and then get out of the way and let these amazing people do their job. And it takes like a blind leap of trust a little bit. Like you do have to have some oversight, but if you hire amazing people, you usually end up in a pretty good position.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's 100% true, because if you've got those, I think it's not sure if it's Paul Graham from Y Combinator that says, you've got these 10x engineers, and literally they'll be doing what 10 regular engineers are doing. So if you've got those high quality staff members, obviously, you can build just much better. And if you've got a team of 10x engineers, it's a huge impact on your tech company. In terms of switching a little bit into the funding and VC kind of conversation, we've seen that there was a 650K pre-seed round from some angel investors. And obviously there's 10 employees across a couple of different countries. Do you have any like what's the next stage of using that funding to grow? Like what are you going to focus on with the pre-seed? Do you have a diluted position on the cap table now? And will there be like an A round, B round from larger VCs?
Yeah, for sure. So there is some dilution on the cap table from raising this pre-seed. I guess the goal with the pre-seed is kind of to show that, we can, with some limited money and in a very short amount of time, we can really scale this company and get that initial traction, which we've already got off to like a pretty awesome start on. And we're going to kind of give it a couple more months, and then start raising the next round. We hope for there to be Series A, or I guess actually like a seed, then Series A, Series B, and so forth. We want Minky to be the company we work on for the next decade and to be very large. I think what we're doing can have a massive impact. And I guess that was the idea from the start, right? Like I think Revolut has 15 million users. They're in 7 countries, mostly Western countries too, that pretty limited populations. So what if you could achieve that at a much larger scale, like be everywhere and like really sink your teeth, let's say, into 20 countries eventually, not on day one. Like in our first 5 years, we kind of hope to do like 1 country outside of the US per year. So our focus for right now actually is in Brazil. So right now, actually, the app is translated into Portuguese. On early next week, we'll have a local top-up partner going live in Portugal. So kind of how we have Pay ID in Australia. It's called Pix in Brazil. So yeah, it's pretty expensive to move money via Apple Pay, like on debit card networks. So it's like, actually, for a while, it's going to be no fee top-up using Pix into Minky. And yeah, we essentially want to go after these like high inflation economies because really when you start a business you want to go after like a burning customer problem, and yeah, I think Brazil has lost 60% of their currency's value over the last decade, and we think that is only going to likely increase. It's a sad reality, but we think that's going to increase over the next decade, and I think we're going to see this in many more countries over the next few years. Like just over COVID, right? We had like Turkey go through hyperinflation. Turkish lira is actually like, I think, a top 15 currency globally. It's not like a small currency like Zimbabwe, right? That is actually a very large currency and a pretty large economy too. That's going into hyperinflation. Just these last few weeks, Sri Lanka is in a currency crisis. Again, it's not that small of a country, and people's savings are just totally wiped out. And if you actually look at keyword search volumes, so we use Ahrefs internally to kind of see like which keyword should we be focusing our SEO on. If you look at crypto staking wallets, the volume is actually coming out of Sri Lanka right now, more than the US and these other countries, which is just absolutely insane,
Yeah,
right?
that's crazy.
And with Minky, we kind of hope to cast like a wide enough net in terms of like local top-up partners, really easy ways to get into crypto. So like I said, by kind of the end of this quarter, we hope to have 42 different local top-up partners. So like Pix in Brazil, Pay ID in Australia, UPI in India, all the ones through Southeast Asia. And then kind of see these green shoots pop up as people kind of look for exits, and then we'll invest in these countries that I guess we see a lot of potential in. So yeah, Brazil is the first one. A lot of people are rushing there, but again, it'll kind of depend on data. But we're also kind of seeing a lot of usage in Malaysia and Indonesia. I guess that's also a very interesting use case there. In Islam, which is the dominant religion in Malaysia, you actually aren't allowed to earn interest or money by lending out your capital. Like you can't earn interest from people borrowing. So we the current iteration of Minky, where you kind of use Aave and mstable, that is lending out your money so that they can't use it. But people are looking for different solutions because one, they're experiencing inflation. Two, they actually have never had a place that they can earn a safe yield on their capital. So we're looking to add other protocols as well that kind of generate yield just by providing liquidity, still in stable coins, but just like stable coin swaps essentially. So you can hopefully earn somewhere between 5 to 9%. But that's really powerful in these countries, right? Like, in those cultures, people don't really invest in the stock market. It's kind of a cultural belief that you have 5 powerful guys kind of pulling all the strings and just draining your money from your bank account or your investment account. So that they want just like safe and sustainable ways to protect their wealth. I guess like gold and a lot of these like alternative assets are very big in these countries. So DeFi is actually like a very like powerful and impactful technology there, and it can protect people from inflation, but also give them very safe and actually very competitive yields. Like earning 5% on your money, like over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, you might scoff at it, be like, oh yeah, 10%, but that's actually the historical rate of like growing your money, right? It's about 7% a year.
Yeah, right.
And if you can do that in a reliable and kind of safe method, that's pretty good. Because a lot of people are actually earning that and waking up and checking their Robinhood or Stake account every morning to make sure they're doing okay. But if you can kind of like sit there, park your money, earn 5-7%, not have to worry about it, I think that's pretty awesome too. Not everybody's crazy young investors like me. I can probably you guys as well.
No, that's awesome. Okay, amazing. So as
We certainly
wrap,
like the stocks. That's true.
that's true.
The high growth tech ones. Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap, I guess for you personally, Josh, as a dog owner, as someone who just lives in Melbourne and enjoys life and stuff like that, on top of what you're doing for work, like what does the future look like for you, more holistically? Like, I guess sometimes you look at these people who've started these startup businesses, and sometimes they can go to multiple billions of dollars worth of market cap, and they're run off their feet, and they spend no time with their family, they spend no time with their dog, and I guess it's a huge cost personally to do that, as opposed to maybe there's a goal to be like, get to this point and it's like, we're impacting X number of people. I'm not run off my feet. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever weighed up personally the cost of what you're going after and whether or not there's like, actually, like I'd be really happy with this attainment to sell at this point, or to, step down or step out as chairman at this point? I don't know, just for you personally, like, or is it ultimately philanthropical sort of stuff, or?
No, but I think personally, I'm a very competitive person. And I guess I'm at a stage in my life now. I'm 28. I don't have kids. In kind of sports, you have like the concept of the prime of your career.
Yeah.
I kind of like see me and my co-founders here older than me. So yeah, I'm also a very similar situation. It's like, likely we'll have kids, but this is our opportunity now. We've spent the last 5 years at a startup, like learning the ropes, like let's absolutely go for it and go very, very hard. But yeah, and that is, to be honest, it is demanding on like family life. My partner plays a big role in like what I do, and she's like an awesome support as with my co-founder. But I think you just have to be thoughtful of that, thoughtful about the company culture you want to build, and I guess thoughtful about where you are in your life cycle as well. So I guess in terms of company culture, we have these like very big goals, but we do say like it doesn't need to be absolutely crazy all the time, right? Maybe right now we're hopefully kicking off a round in a couple months, and we want to get these numbers like looking very good. So to be honest, it is wartime. We're going to demand a lot out of everybody, and you need to go hard. But there might be times, and to be honest, it's probably going to be a lot like that for a lot of this next bear market. But there might be times when, like we've hit some like really awesome milestones, right? I think it's okay to take your foot off the pedal a little bit and celebrate that as a team. And give people like maybe for a summer, like four-day weekend, like a 4-day week for maybe like a few weeks. And when you do get together as a remote team, really, really enjoy it. We don't have to pay 25, 30K for an office space in Melbourne. Everyone's generally working at home, maybe sometimes in a co-working space that's pretty cheap. But when we do get together, and if we are really crushing it, like let's have some fun. Like that's one thing we did at our old jobs as well. Like we did a team retreat in Lisbon. I missed the last one because of COVID, but people went to, I think, Cyprus and Rio. And when we're hoping to get together as a team probably in November. Hopefully like we've achieved some like pretty amazing goals by then. It'll be European winter, so we'll try to get the team down. Maybe it's like Bali or so, like some place warm, and we'll enjoy it. We'll spend some time to work together, of course, but it's not. We only get to spend time in person, like in very limited chunks every year. And those should be the times to, get to know the people you work with on a very personal level. I'm actually a very big believer that you form deeper relationships working and living with your teammates for 2 to 3 weeks a year in different countries. And just kind of getting a big Airbnb, going out for dinner, cooking. That's what we did at like Marcus, my co-founder. That's how we're good friends. We had done that in Lithuania. We had done that in Portugal. When we first did like our first kind of dev retreat, we were just sharing an Airbnb together in Lithuania. And that was the first time we met in person. And I think that forms really deep relationships. And it's also like a lot of fun. So
that's
when
amazing.
you're at war. When you're at war, you're at war. But when you win, celebrate it.
100%.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you so much for your time. Like, it's so clear that you're clearly an awesome leader, and so the people who are working under you in Minky are very blessed to have you as their CEO. And it's clear, like, obviously, it's going to be such a phenomenal company, and I'm excited to watch where it goes by November. You know what you're celebrating at that little staff retreat. But honestly, thank you so much for your time. Your knowledge is awesome, and you've been really generous with giving us this time. In regards to people who want to find out a bit more about either yourself or where do you want to direct them to find out more about Minky and to get involved?
Yeah, so we're at minky.app. So go to the website, or you can just search us in the iOS App Store now. Just you can search Minky or DeFi Wallet, and you should see us near the top. And we'll be on Android by the end of this quarter as well. So if you're on Android, check out the Google Play Store, or kind of sign up for email updates on our website. And if you want to follow along with me, I'm Van City Reyes on Twitter. I grew up in Vancouver, so Van City Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds, his Twitter handle. So I just ripped that off before I moved to Australia. Now I might need to update it because I don't think I'm going back to Vancouver anytime soon. But Van City Reyes on Twitter. Given the Terra situation now, I'm have some spicy takes. So I'm trying to be pretty loud and obnoxious about how we're different. But usually in usual times, I'll share some good advice on building a company and remote work. But for the next few weeks, it's going to be spicy.
That's amazing. And on the chances that there's also people who are like thinking like, man, Minky's somewhere that I'd love to work one day. What's the best way for them to stay in touch with what you're doing and potential updates of hiring and stuff like that?
Yeah, again, sign up on our website. When we post a job, we usually include it in our newsletter. We'll have a careers page actually on our next website update, so you can sign up for updates there. Or just connect with me on LinkedIn too, or on Twitter. Just send me a message. Give me a little bit of a blurb on what you do, and we'll definitely once we do start hiring again, which planning on raising in the next couple months. So once that raise is done. We're going to hopefully really scale up the team. So I'd love to have more people on board.
100%. Josh, thank you so much. We'll let you go and have lunch. Thanks for giving us your time. We've loved it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely
really
the best mustache we've had on HQLA.
That's absolutely true. Thank you so much.
Absolutely,
We'll let you go.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.